From the moment Kazuya Mishima drew his first breath, the weight of a dynasty bore down upon him. The Mishima name was synonymous with power, power amassed through the Mishima Zaibatsu, an empire spanning diverse industries, and honed through the family's mastery of unique martial arts. The Mishima estate, with its grand halls and immaculate gardens, epitomized their dominance. Yet beneath the opulence laid a simmering cauldron of tension, ambition, and buried secrets. Even before Kazuya's birth, his family's history was steeped in conflict and intrigue. His grandfather, Heihachi Mishima, founded the Mishima Zaibatsu, a corporation that thrived during World War II by manufacturing weapons. After the war, Heihachi turned toward pacifism, seeking to distance himself from the arms trade and instead focus on refining Mishima-style fighting karate, an ancient martial art purportedly created to exterminate demons. He trained his son, Heihachi Mishima, alongside Kazumi Hachijo, a girl from the Hachijo clan, a lineage of assassins sent to spy on the dangerous Mishimas under the guise of training. When Kazumi first arrived at Jinpachi's dojo, she and Heihachi were fierce rivals in their training. Over time, however, their rivalry blossomed into love. They eventually married, and at 26, Heihachi became a father when Kazumi gave birth to their son, Kazuya. Kazuya's earliest memories were filled with warmth and love. His mother sang him lullabies and cradled him in her arms, shielding him from the world's harshness.
カズヤ、世界は残酷かもしれないが、すべてが崩壊しているように感じても、自分の中にある光を持ち続けなければならない。
Jinpachi served as a guiding light, teaching Kazuya the fundamentals of the Mishima fighting style and sharing tales of honor and discipline.
Kazuya.
All of this, however, stood in stark contrast to Heihachi's cold and harsh training methods. For a time, the Mishima family lived in peace, but eventually, their happiness ended abruptly when Kazumi collapsed with a fever during training. While Heihachi tended to her, she suddenly attacked him without warning.
Kazumi!
Heihachi-san.
The following day, Kazumi had no memory of the incident, and her fever was gone. This cycle repeated several times, leading Heihachi to believe Kazumi was suffering from a split personality disorder. Over time, however, he realized Kazumi harbored a far darker secret. Azazel, a powerful and ancient demon once known as the Rectifier, ruled over the heavens and earth thousands of years ago. It was the progenitor of a power known as the Devil Gene. In ancient times, Azazel granted a fraction of its power to select humans, enabling them to channel their desires and fears to unlock supernatural abilities and transform into monstrous beings. These individuals served as Azazel's loyal agents. For his chosen few, the devil gene became a supernatural genetic abnormality, passed down from generation to generation. This power functioned as a parasitic relationship, with a malignant spirit referred to as a devil, acting as the host's dark counterpart. The spirit took control of its host, transforming their appearance and personality while granting them supernatural abilities. Even in its dormant state, the spirit afflicted the mind of the untransformed host, preying on their thoughts and desires and amplifying them, whether for good or ill. Eventually, humans overthrew Azazel, and the ancient ancestors of Zafina imprisoned its spirit within a temple built in its name. They placed a magical seal to bind it, but the power of the devil gene continued to persist in the world inside humanity. The Hachijo clan were descendants of a devil that escaped Azazel's rule long before its imprisonment. For millennia, the Hachijo clan, carriers of demonic blood, operated from the shadows of Kyoto, eliminating those deemed threats to the world by directing the supernatural force against their enemies. Kazumi was one such carrier of the devil gene. The Hachijo clan foresaw that Heihachi's unchecked ambition would bring great tragedy to the world. Thus, after 5 years of marriage, and even though she loved him dearly, Kazumi received the order to kill Heihachi and their son. The clan also prophesied that if Kazumi failed to kill Heihachi, their son, Kazuya Mishima, would grow into a similar threat. Kazumi was torn. She knew Heihachi had to be stopped, yet she dreaded unleashing her devil. She could not bear the thought of killing her son or the man she loved. She delayed the inevitable, suppressing the devil, causing her to become frequently ill, but this could only last so long. Eventually, there would be no stopping it. The idyllic days at the Mishima estate began to unravel when Kazuya turned 5. He noticed it first in his mother's eyes, once warm and serene, now heavy with worry. Kazumi's soothing voice, a source of comfort, grew sharp whenever she spoke to Heihachi. The arguments began as whispered exchanges, but soon escalated into shouting matches that reverberated through the grand halls.
なぜ彼を輝かすのですか、カズミ。あなたが彼を保護し続けたら、彼は決してこの時に生き残ることはできません。私たちは強くなければなりません。強烈な。
Kazumi was desperately trying to save Heihachi from himself, attempting to steer him away from the dark, ambitious path he had chosen. She sought any solution to avoid fulfilling her orders, for the sake of their family and for the sake of their son. Kazuya began noticing things he hadn't before, his mother clutching her chest as if fighting an unseen internal battle, his grandfather's tense expressions, and his father's growing coldness and ambition. He clung to Kazumi as if his presence alone could hold back the darkness. But the storm was coming, and nothing could stop it.
もしミッションに失敗したら、平八さんを殺してください。そして、和也のことも。
すべては和美殿の願い。
One night, Jinpachi vanished. The staff avoided Kazuya's questions, their eyes downcast and their lips sealed. He overheard murmurs of betrayal and imprisonment, but his father offered no explanation. Jinpachi had been a cornerstone of Kazuya's world, and without him, the estate felt emptier, colder. Then came the day Kazumi fell ill for the last time. She knew this was the moment she could no longer hold the devil at bay. The vibrancy that had once defined her faded as she withdrew to her chambers. Kazuya sat by her bedside, clutching her hand as she offered quiet reassurances.
ミシコよ、君は自分が思っている以上に強い。私はあなたをとても愛している。さあ、自分の部屋で遊びなさい。あなたのお父さんと話をする必要があります。
よっ、ふん、ほっ、うん、せい。カズミ？
貴様はいずれ世界を脅かす存在になる。
何の夢を見ている？
故に今死を与えるのだ。
カズミ、やめ！
まだわからぬか。なぜ我がこの家に嫁いだのか。
まさか。
我ら八丈家は貴様のような人間を消すために太古から存在しておる。その使命を今果たす。死ねい、平八！平八さん、これも血の差だ。死ね！安咲きにしてくれる。平八さん、よろしゅうお頼申します。いい子ね。月が綺麗ですね。
カズミ。
まさか私を殺せるのですか？私を殺せば憎しみの連鎖が。話してください、平八さん。私を愛しているなら。
いいよ。もはや貴様はカズミではない。ならば
The news of Kazumi's death eventually reached Kazuya, shattering his world. Grief soon gave way to rage as he struggled to piece together what had happened. He concluded that the last person seen with her was responsible for her death. Driven by this belief, he confronted Heihachi in the family dojo, his small fists trembling at his sides. After young Kazuya hurled accusations at him, Heihachi did nothing to ease the boy's anguish. He offered no explanations, simply allowing Kazuya to believe whatever he wanted to believe.
君に自分のことを説明する必要はないよ。彼女はもういません。彼女は弱っていました。彼女には進むべき道が見えませんでした。同じ間違いを犯すことはありません。
Kazuya charged at his father, his wild punches uncontrolled and ineffective. Heihachi swatted him aside effortlessly, sending him sprawling across the dojo floor.
これはあれだ。この世界があなたの民だを気にしていると思いますか？強い者だけが生き残る。
Grabbing Kazuya by the collar, Heihachi dragged him out of the dojo to the edge of the estate's infamous cliff. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the jagged rocks below.
高いとは誰が生き残るかということであり、それ以外の荷物でもない。さあ立ち上がって私と戦え、少年よ。
貴様のせいで母さんは。
聞かぬわ。行くぞ。生まれ変わって出直してこい。
Kazuya faded into the night as Heihachi let him go. The world became a blur of wind as he plummeted toward the jagged rocks. The impact tore the air from his lungs, and darkness consumed him. He awoke in searing agony. Every bone in his body felt shattered, his skin torn and slick with blood. He should have been dead. By all rights, the fall should have ended his life. Yet as he lay broken on the jagged rocks, something began to stir within him.
あなたは捨てられ、壊れ、忘れられた。私はあなたの痛みを知っている。うぬいち側に燃える怒りを感じる。この力を受け入れ、立ち上がり、生き、あなたを不当にあかった者たちを打ち砕くのだ。
Without hesitation, Kazuya, consumed by anger and desperation, surrendered himself to this mysterious power. A searing heat surged through his veins, knitting his wounds and filling him with a strength he had never known. When he opened his eyes, they glowed with a faint, ominous red. Kazuya began his ascent. The cliff that had nearly claimed his life became his proving ground. Every inch he climbed served to bolster his newfound sense of purpose, his hatred for his father fueling each step. Hours later, he stood at the summit. The kind boy who had fallen was no more. In his place stood a boy who swore to take everything from his father, the same way his father had taken everything from him. Although Kazuya hated Heihachi with every fiber of his being, he knew his father was the only one capable of completing his training. Aware that Heihachi sought nothing more than a strong heir, Kazuya returned to the estate.
怒りに極する。カズヤ。ケロスム。彼を持ってやる。彼を済む。
In the years that followed, Kazuya's training intensified. Heihachi pushed him harder than ever, molding him into a weapon. But Kazuya was no longer the frail boy who had once clung to his mother's side. He buried his emotions, channeling his pain into every strike. The devil gene, previously awakened, lay dormant, lingering in the back of his mind. A silent reminder of the power he wielded should he need it again. During this period of rigorous training and emotional isolation, Heihachi introduced a new element into Kazuya's life, one designed to push him further and challenge him in ways even Heihachi could not. That element was a young boy named Li Chaolan. Li's parents had died when he was a child, leaving him an orphan on the streets of a busy Chinese city. Heihachi discovered Li during a business trip and was impressed by the boy's raw talent and potential in combat. Seeing an opportunity to mold a new fighter and create a rival for Kazuya, Heihachi adopted Li and brought him back to Japan. From the moment Li arrived at the Mishima estate, Kazuya understood his father's true intentions. Li was not brought in to be a brother, he was a rival, a constant reminder that Kazuya was not indispensable. Heihachi wasted no time pitting them against each other, forcing both boys to spar and compete in every aspect of their lives. While Kazuya was driven by hatred and the need to prove himself superior to his father, Li thrived on competition, seeking Heihachi's approval, with an eagerness that only deepened Kazuya's resentment. Li's talent was undeniable. He was quick, agile, and showed a natural affinity for the Mishima fighting style. Heihachi ensured that Li received the same strict upbringing as Kazuya: harsh training, relentless discipline, and no tolerance for weakness. But while Kazuya's motivations stemmed from vengeance and hatred, Li's were more nuanced. He wanted to prove himself, to show that he could stand toe-to-toe with Kazuya and earn his place in the family. The rivalry between the two boys grew increasingly fierce. Every victory Li claimed felt like a personal slight to Kazuya, and every time Kazuya bested Li, it reaffirmed his own superiority. Their battles extended beyond fists. They fought with their minds, each scheming to undermine the other. Heihachi, for his part, seemed to revel in their animosity, convinced that their rivalry would forge strength in both of them. Beneath the hostility, there were fleeting moments when Kazuya saw something familiar in Li's eyes: a loneliness, a desperate need to prove his worth to the only person who had ever shown him any kind of attention. It mirrored his own struggle, the endless fight to gain power over Heihachi. But those moments were brief, quickly buried beneath layers of resentment and relentless competition. For Kazuya, there was no longer any room in his heart for any emotion that he perceived to be a weakness. Heihachi never truly took much interest in Li beyond his role as a tool to sharpen Kazuya. While Kazuya was groomed to inherit the Mishima Zaibatsu, Li was placed on a different path. Heihachi ensured he received a business education and, as he grew older, granted him partial control over the American branch of the Zaibatsu. Beyond combat, Li's talents were vast. He was cunning, intelligent, and possessed a natural flair for leadership, making him invaluable to Heihachi's expanding empire.